Andrew Toney is almost 70 years old now. The man who once made basketball crowds jump to their feet lives a quiet life far from the spotlight. His story shows us how badly things can go wrong when talent meets injury and distrust. What happened to this amazing player should make us all angry. In the early 1980s, Andrew Toney was one of the scariest players in basketball. He played shooting guard for the Philadelphia 76ers. Fans called him the Boston Strangler because he destroyed the Boston Celtics so often. When big games were on the line, Toney always came through. He could shoot from anywhere on the court. His jump shot was smooth and deadly. Toney joined the 76ers in 1980 as the 8th pick in the draft. Right away, he showed he belonged. In his first year, he averaged almost 13 points per game. But it was in the playoffs where he really shined. Against Boston, he would drop 30 or 35 points like it was nothing. The Boston Garden should have scared young players. Instead, Toney treated it like his personal playground. Larry Bird was one of the greatest players ever. Even Bird admitted that Toney was one of the best guys I ever played against. Bird said the Celtics had nobody who could stop him. That's huge praise from a legend. Charles Barkley played with Toney on the 76ers. Barkley always said Toney was the best player he ever teamed up with. These weren't just nice words. They were the truth. In 1983, Toney helped the 76ers win the NBA championship. That team had 4 future Hall of Fame players. Julius Erving, Moses Malone, Bobby Jones, and Morris Cheeks were all stars. But Toney was just as important as any of them. He averaged almost 20 points per game that season. In the playoffs, he stayed clutch when it mattered most. The team swept the Lakers in the finals. It was their first title in 16 years. Toney made the All-Star team twice, in 1983 and 1984. His best season was 1983-84, when he averaged over 20 points per game. He shot 50% from the field for his whole career. That's amazing for a guard who took so many tough shots. He could also shoot three-pointers well before most players even tried them. Everything was going perfectly. Then the pain started. Near the end of the 1984-85 season, Toney began feeling serious pain in his feet. At first, it seemed like normal soreness from a long season, but the pain wouldn't go away. It got worse and worse. When he told the team doctors, they couldn't find anything wrong. They ran tests and took x-rays. The doctors said his feet looked fine. They told him to keep playing, but Toney knew something was really wrong. Every step hurt. Running was agony. Playing basketball became torture. Still, the medical staff kept saying they couldn't see any problems. They started to think Toney was making it up. Some people in the organization began to doubt him. This was the beginning of a nightmare that would ruin his career. The team owner was Harold Katz. Katz was known for being tough on players. When Toney kept complaining about foot pain, Katz got angry. He didn't believe the injury was real. Katz thought Toney was just being soft or trying to get out of playing. The owner even said so in public. This created an ugly situation between Toney and the team. Things got much worse in 1985. The 76ers put Toney on injured reserve, but not because of his feet. They listed the reason as bad attitude. This was their way of saying they thought he was faking. They also threatened to suspend him if he refused to play. Imagine being in terrible pain and having your own team call you a liar. The worst part came when NBA officials showed up at Toney's house early one morning. They wanted him to take a drug test. Someone had spread rumors that he was using drugs to explain his behavior. 2 NBA employees camped outside his home overnight. At 7 a.m., they knocked on his door and demanded the test. Toney was shocked and humiliated. He took the test and passed it easily. He wasn't using drugs. He was just hurt and frustrated. Toney believed the 76ers were behind the drug test. The team and the NBA both said they had nothing to do with it, but Toney never believed them. The trust between him and the organization was completely broken. He felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect him. Finally, Toney decided to see his own doctor. This private physician found what the team doctors had missed. Toney had stress fractures in the navicular bones of both feet. These are small bones that are hard to see on regular x-rays. The fractures were real and serious. Michael Jordan had the same injury years later. Everyone understood how bad Jordan's injury was. But when Toney had it, nobody listened. The diagnosis proved Toney had been telling the truth all along. He wasn't lying or being difficult. He had been playing on 2 broken feet for months. The team had forced him to make his injury worse by not believing him. By the time the real problem was found, too much damage was done. Toney had surgery to fix the stress fractures. Later, he needed more surgery for bone spurs in his ankle, but his feet never fully healed. the pain never really went away. His speed and jumping ability were gone forever. The player who once flew around the court could barely walk without discomfort. In 1985 to 86, Toney played only 6 games. Over his last 3 seasons, he appeared in just 81 total games. His final year was 1987 to 88. He averaged only 7.3 points per game in 29 appearances. This was a shadow of the player who once terrorized the Celtics. At age 30, when most players are still in their prime, Andrew Toney was finished. His career lasted only 8 seasons. Just 5 of those were fully healthy. Teammates and coaches all said the same thing. If Toney had stayed healthy, he would be in the Hall of Fame today. Billy Cunningham, his coach, said Toney definitely had a Hall of Fame career before the injuries. Julius Erving said he'd have been a Hall of Famer, hands down. Even opponents agreed. Pat Riley called him the greatest clutch player I've ever seen. But none of that mattered now. The damage was done. Toney's body was broken, and so was his spirit. The way the team treated him left deep scars. He felt angry and bitter about what happened. The organization that should have protected him had failed him completely. After retiring, Toney basically disappeared from public view. He moved to Atlanta and became an elementary school teacher. This was a big change from being a basketball star. For years, he wanted nothing to do with the 76ers or Philadelphia. He wouldn't even set foot in the Spectrum where the team played. He stopped talking to reporters from Philadelphia newspapers. The bitterness lasted for decades. From 1988 to 2012, Toney never attended a single 76ers game. Think about that. 24 years without returning to see his old team. He was so hurt by what happened that he couldn't bear to be around the organization. This shows how deep the wounds went. Even years after retiring, Toney's feet still caused him problems. He could only play pickup basketball 2 or 3 times per month. Even then, he was in agony afterward. Sometimes the pain was so bad it was unbearable. He said he probably shouldn't play at all. The injury that ended his career continued to haunt him every day. In 2012, something special happened. The Philadelphia 76ers were honoring their 1983 championship team. Toney finally agreed to come back. It was his first appearance at a 76ers game in 24 years. The crowd gave him a huge ovation. Fans still remembered what he had done for the city. But even this happy moment was bittersweet. It reminded everyone of what could have been. Today, Andrew Toney lives quietly in suburban Atlanta. He works as an elementary school teacher. It's honest work, but it's far from the fame and glory he once knew. He stays out of the spotlight. Most young basketball fans don't even know his name. The player who once made Larry Bird sweat has been mostly forgotten. The saddest part is that none of this had to happen. If the 76ers had believed Toney from the start, things might have been different. If they had found the stress fractures earlier, he might have healed properly. If they had supported him instead of doubting him, his career might have continued for years. Instead, organizational pride and stubbornness destroyed one of the most talented players of his generation. Toney was failed by the system that was supposed to protect him. His story shows us that talent alone isn't enough. Players need teams that trust them and doctors who listen to them. Andrew Toney should be remembered as a Hall of Fame player. Instead, he's a cautionary tale about what happens when organizations fail their athletes. At almost 70, he deserves better than to be forgotten. His pain, both physical and emotional, should remind us to do better for future players. What do you think about how injured players get treated? Share your thoughts in the comments below.